Story 1. The break-in. It was just another regular day. I'd gone on my usual morning walk, grabbed some coffee, and headed back home, ready to relax. But as I reached my front porch, I noticed the door wasn't fully closed, not open, just cracked. Now, that door always shuts tight, so seeing it slightly ajar, I knew something was wrong. I froze, then slowly stepped forward. The lock was busted, not picked, broken. The door creaked open on its own, like it had been waiting. I stood there, heart pounding, staring into the dark hallway inside. I didn't move, didn't breathe. Then I pulled out my phone and called 911. Tried to sound calm, but my hands were shaking. The dispatcher told me to wait outside. Help was on the way, so I stood there, just waiting, alone, wondering if someone was still inside. A few minutes passed, though it felt like an hour. Then came the flashing lights. 2 officers entered the house. They checked everything, every room, every closet, and nothing. Nobody was there. No damage beyond the lock, no forced windows, no mess. But then I stepped inside and started noticing the little things. The photos on the walls were crooked. Some were missing. My jewelry box, open. A few pieces gone. Others scattered like someone had picked them up, held them, and just tossed them back down. Kitchen drawers had been opened. Cons in the pantry moved around. Even the living room. Books pulled out. Electronics out of place. It was like someone had touched everything. Not stolen. Just touched. Fingerprints on my life. When the cops left, they said, probably just a break-in. Could be a one-time thing. But it didn't feel like that. It felt personal. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every creak in the house made me flinch. And the worst part, I kept feeling like I was being watched. Not in the moment, not physically, but like they had seen me and wanted me to know. I changed the locks, installed cameras, double-checked everything, but the fear never really left. Not because of what they took, but because of what they looked at. When someone breaks into your house, they don't just take your stuff. They take your peace, your sense of safety, your illusion that you're alone when the door is closed. I never figured out who it was. But sometimes, when the house is quiet, I swear, I hear a faint creak, like someone else is still inside. Story 2. The man on the bench. The park across from my apartment had always been peaceful. I'd go there in the evenings to unwind, watch the city lights, just breathe. It was part of my routine. Then one day, I noticed him, an older man, sitting alone on a bench across the street. He wore a grey coat and a tilted fedora. At first, he just seemed quiet, harmless. But then I realized he was there every single night. Same bench, same time. And he was always looking at me. Not around, not at the trees, at me. At first, I tried to brush it off. Maybe he just liked the view. Maybe he wasn't even looking at me. But over time, it felt different. His stare, it wasn't casual. It was locked, focused, like he was tracking me. One chilly evening, I finally walked over. I stood in front of him and asked, "Excuse me, I've noticed you sitting here every night. Are you watching me?" He slowly turned his head, calm as ever, and said, "I'm just watching over you." Sometimes people need a guardian, even if they don't know it. That sentence hit me like ice. I didn't know what to say. I just mumbled, "Okay," and walked away. But that night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about that voice, that stare, that phrase. I decided to move. New neighborhood, new apartment, far from that park. I didn't tell anyone why. I just said I needed a change of scenery. The new place was quiet, safe, for a while. But even there, I still felt watched. Not by a person, just watched. Maybe it was paranoia, or maybe his words got under my skin. Maybe he really had seen something in me, something that needed watching. Whatever it was, I never forgot his face or his voice. I'm just watching over you, and if you thought that was eerie, wait till you hear this. Story 3. Footsteps at night. The first time I heard it, I thought it was just the house settling. A faint, rhythmic sound late at night. Nothing too alarming. I had just moved into this old place on the edge of town. Creaky wood floors, high ceilings, all the charm of something built before modern insulation existed. I was alone, which was the whole point. I needed space, peace, but the peace didn't last long. Each night, as I was falling asleep, I'd hear it. Footsteps, soft at first, almost like someone pacing, then louder, clearer, like someone walking through the hall, down into the kitchen, then silence. I'd get up, check every door and window, all locked, nothing disturbed, but the footsteps came back, night after night. I told myself it was just pipes, or maybe my mind playing tricks. Then one night, I set up a recorder. Next morning, I listened back and froze. Footsteps, clear as day, slow, heavy, deliberate, and something else. Faint whispering, indistinct, but there. That's when I called a paranormal investigation group. I didn't even care how it sounded anymore. They came, set up their cameras, recorders, everything. The next day they said, we picked up some creaking. Could just be the house. But I knew better. The footsteps didn't stop. One night, I heard them right outside my bedroom door. I held my breath. I listened. Then I opened the door. Nothing. But the air felt wrong. I started sleeping with lights on, keeping music playing to drown out the silence. Then one day, I found something in the attic. A journal belonged to the previous owner. Inside, they wrote about hearing footsteps, feeling watched, just like me. The final entry said, the echoes won't stop. Then it just ended. I still live here. The footsteps still come. But now, I talk back, just in case. Someone is listening. Let's keep going. This one hits closer to home. Story 4. The missing cat. Whiskers was always waiting for me at the door. Every time I came home, she'd run up, purring, brushing against my legs. She was more than a pet. She was family. But one day, I came home to silence. No purring, no sound, no whiskers. I searched every room, every corner of the house. Nothing. I went outside, calling her name, shaking the treat bag. Still nothing. I put up flyers, asked neighbors, posted online. Days passed, a week, then 2. Still nothing. Just when I was starting to give up, I heard a faint meow on the front porch. It was her. But she wasn't the same. She was limping. Her fur was dirty, matted. Her eyes, usually full of life, looked terrified. She flinched when I reached for her. Then I saw it. A folded note attached to her collar. It read, she was ours for a while. No name, no explanation. Just that. I brought her inside, cleaned her wounds, fed her, held her. But she wouldn't sleep. She'd wake up in the middle of the night and stare at the door, as if she expected someone to come back for her. I called the police, showed them the note. They were concerned, but there wasn't much they could do. No fingerprints, no leads. The vet said she had bruises, minor cuts, and trauma. Lots of it. Someone had taken her, kept her, and then brought her back. I installed cameras, triple-checked the locks, but the fear lingered. Whiskers slowly recovered. Bit by bit, she started acting like herself again, playing, purring, curling up beside me. But every now and then, she still stares at the door, and I still wonder, who had her, and why did they give her back? And now, Something more subtle, but no less disturbing. Story 5. The mirror. It happened on an ordinary Saturday morning. I accidentally knocked over the bathroom mirror. It shattered. Glass everywhere, glittering across the tile like ice. Annoying, sure, but fixable. I cleaned it up carefully. Then I ordered a new one online. Sleek, modern, perfect fit. When the delivery arrived, the driver handed it over with a weird smile. Tucked inside the packaging was a little handwritten note. "Hope this one doesn't crack." Was it a joke? I laughed it off. The new mirror looked great, brightened up the room, but something about it felt wrong. Every time I looked into it, I felt uneasy, like there was something behind the reflection. At first, I told myself it was just nerves, leftover anxiety from the old mirror breaking. But the feeling got worse. I'd catch myself glancing away quickly. My heart would race for no reason. I stopped looking in the mirror altogether. Then one night, I had a dream of eyes staring back at me from the other side of the glass. I woke up in a sweat, shaken. I decided to investigate. Checked behind the mirror. The wall was solid, clean, but I noticed a dark spot near the corner of the room. I wiped it up. Still felt off. Finally, I called a paranormal investigator. They brought equipment, ran tests, cameras, EMF readings, everything. Nothing, no evidence of anything strange, just a mirror. But even now, weeks later, I avoid that bathroom. The mirror still hangs there, perfect, harmless. And yet, every time I catch my reflection, I feel like I'm not the only one looking. Story 6. The locked room. When I inherited my great-uncle's old Victorian house, I thought it'd be a peaceful getaway. Something different, something quiet. I had no idea what I was walking into. The house was beautiful, dusty, sure, but grand. Full of old furniture, creaky floors, and a strange, quiet atmosphere. One day, I was going through the attic when I found it. A door, hidden behind a stack of trunks and old curtains. Unlike any other in the house, thick, reinforced, bolted shut. But not from the outside. The bolts were on the inside. That's when the obsession started. I tried everything to open it. Nothing worked. Eventually, I called a locksmith. He worked on it for nearly an hour. Then, click. The door creaked open. The room was empty. No furniture, no boxes, not even dust. Just 4 bare walls. But the feeling inside, it was heavy. Like the air itself didn't want me there. The locksmith left. I stayed. And that's when things got strange. At night, I heard footsteps above me, right where that room was. I checked. Nothing. I'd go up there and feel the cold chill before I even opened the attic door. I searched the house, looking for clues. In a loose floorboard, I found a hidden compartment full of old letters and documents. None of them explained the room, but they hinted at something. Disputes, secrets, transactions with names I didn't recognize. And then the dream started, of standing in that room, unable to move, watching shadows crawl across the walls. I tried to let it go. I couldn't. That empty room wasn't empty. It just wasn't showing me what was inside. And sometimes, when the house is quiet, I swear I still hear something moving behind that door, even though it's locked again, from the inside. Story 7. The Midnight Caller. It started with a phone call. Late one night, just past midnight, my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the better of me. Hello? Silence. Just faint static. I hung up. Next night, same thing. Midnight. Same number. Same silence. By the third call, I was starting to feel uneasy. Then came the fourth. This time, a whisper broke the static. I know where you are. The line went dead. My chest tightened. I checked the locks. pulled the curtains, told myself it was a prank, but the calls kept coming. Always at midnight. Always the same voice. I know where you are. I called the phone company. No records, no trace. I stopped sleeping. My nights were spent sitting in the dark, phone in hand, waiting. Then one night, the voice changed. It wasn't just a whisper. I could hear other noises, papers rustling, maybe voices in the background, like someone was in an office or a room, watching. I contacted the police. They were sympathetic, told me to keep documenting everything, but the calls didn't stop. Then, suddenly, they did. Just like that. Silence. And that was somehow worse. No more midnight rings, no more static. Just the constant question in the back of my mind. Was it over? Or was someone out there, still listening? Story 8. The Man Next Door. At first I thought he was just an old man. Story 9. The Broken Security System. It started with a glitch. One night, I opened the security app on my phone to check the cameras around my house. But something was off. The images were distorted, flickering, like the footage had been spliced together from different times, different angles. At first, I thought it was a technical bug. Called the company. They sent a technician. He checked everything. Looks good, he said. Might have just been a software update glitch. But the glitches didn't stop. In fact, they got worse. One night, I replayed the footage and saw something that made my blood run cold. There was someone in my house, a shadow, a figure, moving through my kitchen, standing in my living room, watching. I paused and rewound, played it over and over. It wasn't a trick of the light. Someone had been there. I hadn't been home that night, and yet, someone had. I called the company again. They replaced some equipment, rewired a few things. Still, the footage kept showing him, always just out of clear view, always just there. I hired a private security expert. He checked everything. No signs of hacking, no signals being intercepted. And yet, the system continued to show images of a man moving around my house, watching, waiting. Sometimes he stood in front of the camera, still, silent, almost daring me to do something. I changed the locks, reinforced the windows, slept with the light on. But every night, I checked the footage, and every night, he was there. No one ever found out who he was, or if he was ever really there at all. But one thing's for sure. I stopped trusting my cameras, because sometimes the thing watching you is already inside. Story 10. The package on the porch. The doorbell rang on a quiet afternoon. I wasn't expecting anyone. When I opened the door, there was a package sitting on the porch. No label, no return address, just there. It was wrapped in plain brown paper, tied with twine. I picked it up. It was light, too light. I brought it inside and opened it slowly, expecting maybe a mistake. Wrong delivery. Inside were photographs. Photos of my house, taken from different angles, different times of day. Some were close, like from the bushes across the street. Others looked like they were taken from behind the house, where no one should have been. There was also a note, just a single sentence, scrawled in rough handwriting. You should have been more careful. My stomach dropped. I checked every lock, every window, called the police. They took the package for fingerprints, reviewed my security footage. Nothing. No one had been seen near my door. No prints on the box. Just nothing. That night, I hardly slept. Every creak, every breeze felt like someone watching. Over the next week, more calls. No one on the line, just breathing. Then silence. I pinned the photos to a corkboard, tried to study them, find some clue, but there was nothing. just proof that someone had been watching. For a long time, I never found out who sent the package, but I never felt safe again, because whoever it was, they weren't trying to break in, they already had. Story 11. The knocking at 3 a.m. It started with a knock, 3 sharp knocks on the front door, at exactly 3 a.m. The first time, I thought I was dreaming. The second time, I got out of bed and checked the door. Nothing. No one outside. Just cold night air and an empty porch. It kept happening. Same time. Same sound. 3 knocks. A pause. Then silence. I tried to brush it off. Maybe a prank. But there were no footprints. No signs of anyone coming or going. I installed a camera above the door. The next night, I heard the knocks again. I checked the footage the next morning. Nothing. No one was there. Just an empty porch, exactly 3 a.m. But the sound was captured, clear as day. 3 knocks. I called the police. They came, looked around, found nothing. They said it was probably just some bored teenager playing games. But bored teenagers don't knock at the same time every night. They don't leave no trace. And they don't know how to avoid being seen on a motion camera. I stopped sleeping. I'd sit on the couch, lights off, watching the door. 3 a.m. knock, knock, knock. I ran to the door, ripped it open. Nothing. Just the sound of the wind and the distant hum of the streetlights. Eventually, I couldn't take it anymore. I moved. Different house, different locks, different everything. The first night in the new place, I slept like a rock. No knocks, no shadows. But on the 3rd night, I woke up in a cold sweat. I didn't hear anything, but I felt it. I checked the time. 3 a.m. I froze, waited, and then knock, knock, knock. I didn't check the door. This time, I stayed in bed, eyes wide open, waiting for it to stop. It did, eventually, but now I know. Some things don't care where you go. They follow. Story 12. The janitor. The office had always felt safe. Late nights were normal for me. I liked the quiet, the hum of the lights, the silence after everyone had gone home. The only other person who stayed that late was Gary, the janitor. Middle-aged, quiet, friendly in that harmless, distant way. At first, I didn't think much of it. He'd stop by, ask how work was going, make a joke, comment on the weather, but then he started asking questions, specific ones, about my projects, my hours, my routine. You always stay this late. That file on your desk looks complicated. At first, it felt like small talk. Then it felt like surveillance. One night, around midnight, I stepped out for a coffee. When I came back, Gary was standing outside my office door, key in hand, frozen. When he saw me, he smiled, too quickly. Oh, I was just making sure everything was locked up. I didn't say anything, just waited until he walked away. The next day, I told HR. They said they'd look into it. 2 days later, Gary was gone. They said he'd moved on, but they didn't look me in the eye when they said it. And from that night on, I never stayed late again. Because safety isn't just about cameras and locks. It's about listening to your gut before someone else decides they know your routine better than you do. They follow. Story 13. The janitor. The office was like a second home to me. A place where I spent long hours immersed in work. I often stayed late, long after most of the staff had gone. The only person usually around was the janitor, Gary. At first, he seemed like a quiet, polite man. He did his job well, kept to himself, and always gave me a courteous nod when we crossed paths. But over time, I began to notice things. Gary always seemed to know exactly when I'd be working late. He'd comment on my schedule, mention things about my projects that I hadn't told anyone. At first, I chalked it up to coincidence or friendly interest. But one night, as I walked to the break room for a coffee, I caught him standing outside my office door, just looking in. I stopped in my tracks. He turned, startled. "Oh, I was just checking if the lights were off," he mumbled. But the lights were still on. I hadn't left. I was right there. I tried to shake it off, but after that, I started noticing more. Sometimes, my office chair would be moved slightly when I arrived in the morning. Once, a drawer I always kept locked was left slightly open. Nothing ever stolen, just touched. I told myself I was imagining it, that I was stressed, sleep deprived, but the feeling didn't go away. So I installed a small motion-activated camera on my desk, hidden in a plant. What I saw shook me. Gary had been coming into my office almost every night I stayed late. He didn't steal anything. He didn't vandalize. He just stood there, stared at my desk, touched things, sat in my chair. Sometimes he'd whisper to himself. Once, he even brought a sandwich and ate at my desk, like it was his. I took the footage straight to HR. They were shocked. Gary was immediately terminated. He didn't deny it, just said he liked my office, said it felt like home. That should have been the end of it. But 2 nights later, I found a sticky note on my monitor, in all caps, "You shouldn't have told." I hadn't been in the office for 2 days, and the building was locked. Story 14. The crate. It started with a knock at the door. I wasn't expecting a delivery, but there it was, a wooden crate on my porch. No label, no return address, just my name carved into the top. It looked old. The wood was splintered. The metal corners rusted. It had that musty antique smell, like it had been sitting in someone's basement for decades. I dragged it inside. It wasn't heavy, but it felt dense, like whatever was inside mattered. There was no lock, just a sliding latch. I opened it. Inside, I found pieces of my life. Old letters I hadn't seen since college. A photo album I thought I'd lost in the move 5 years ago. Even a sweater, the one my ex said she threw out after the breakup. It still smelled like her perfume. I stared at it all, stunned. Some of these things were gone for years. Some I'd never even noticed were missing. But someone had them. Someone had kept them. And now they were giving them back. At the very bottom of the crate was a small envelope. No name. Just one word on the front. Remember. Inside was a Polaroid. Me, asleep in bed. The angle was close, intimate, like whoever took it was standing just inches away. On the back, in shaky handwriting, "You forgot," but I never did. I dropped the photo. Then I checked the locks. All of them. Twice. Story 15. The returned car. My car got stolen on a Thursday. I came outside, keys in hand, ready to head to work. And the parking space was just empty. No broken glass, no signs of a struggle. Just gone. I reported it, of course. Filed a police report. Took the bus for a few days. Figured I'd never see it again. Then on Monday, it was back. Same spot, same position, same layer of dust on the back bumper. But the tank was full, and the seat was adjusted. Not for me, but for someone taller. I stood there, not sure what to do. I opened the door, half expecting a bomb or a dead animal or a note. But there was nothing, until I checked under the seat. There, taped to the floor mat, was a flash drive. Just one file on it. A video. Me, sleeping. It was hours of footage. Different nights, different angles. All taken through my bedroom window. Sometimes I was reading. Sometimes watching TV. But mostly just sleeping. And at the end of the video, a message appeared. "You sleep so soundly." I had time to borrow something. I deleted the video. I moved out a week later. I never parked in the same spot twice again. Story 16. The cabin camera. I booked a cabin in the woods for a quiet weekend. No Wi-Fi, No neighbors, just me, the trees, and some overdue rest. It was perfect at first. Cozy fireplace, soft bed, peaceful silence. But on the second night, I noticed something odd. The smoke detector had a tiny red light. I hadn't seen it the night before. At first, I thought it was normal. Some models have lights, right? But when I got up close, it wasn't a smoke detector. It was a camera, hidden inside the casing, pointed straight at the bed. I froze. My heart was racing. I checked the rest of the cabin, found 2 more, one above the kitchen table, one in the corner of the bathroom, all wired into the wall, all real. I grabbed my stuff and left. Drove through the night until I found a gas station with a signal and called the cops. They met me at a diner off the highway, took my report, took the address, told me I did the right thing. But they also told me this wasn't the first report. That cabin had been listed under different names, different rental apps, and always the same setup. No one knew who actually owned it. The payment info was always fake. The owner never showed up. They just watched and disappeared. I still wonder how many videos they got and where they are now. Story 17. The social media stalker. It started with harmless messages, just little DMS from a blank account. No profile picture, no name, no posts. At first, it was simple stuff. Nice outfit today. Hope your coffee was good. Creepy. Yeah, but maybe a coincidence. Except, I never posted those things. I didn't mention the outfit, or the coffee shop, or the exact table I sat at. Then it got worse. I saw you at the park. You walk your dog at 8:12 every morning. That one broke me, because I do. Every single day. Same path, same time. And I'd never shared that anywhere. I blocked the account, changed my settings, told a few friends. They said it was probably someone I knew. That made it worse. Now I was looking at every barista, every neighbor, every stranger, wondering if it was them. One day, I posted an old vacation photo. Within minutes, the account was back. Looks warmer than it is here today. Blocked again, but it always came back. New name, same tone, same creepy accuracy. I contacted the platform. They said they'd investigate. They didn't. I went to the police. They took my report, suggested I delete my account, delete my life. I moved, changed my routine, even got a second phone. Still, every now and then, a new message from a blank account. Same words. Nice outfit today. Story 18. The letters. It began with a yellowed envelope in my mailbox. No stamp, no return address, just my name, handwritten. Inside was a letter, 1 page. It described my day in detail, my walk to the park, the coffee I ordered, even the joke I told the barista. At the bottom, I hope you enjoyed today. I thought it was a prank, until the next one came, and the next. Each letter knew more. One talked about how I rearranged my living room furniture. Another described the socks I wore while folding laundry. Private things. Things no one could see unless they were inside. I started checking the windows, installed cameras, changed the locks. Still, the letters came. Always at night. No footprints, no fingerprints. Just the envelope. Just the words. One day, a letter said, "You looked scared today. I'm sorry. I just miss being home." That word, home, rattled me. I called the police. They checked everything. They found nothing. The final letter came a week later. "I'm leaving now, but I'll always be watching, because some homes never forget their owners." I moved out that night and never looked back. Story 19. The wrong passenger. It was late, maybe 1:30 a.m., when I picked her up. I drive for a ride-sharing app, mostly at night. Fewer passengers, less traffic, and the city feels different after midnight. She was standing at the corner of a quiet residential street. No streetlights, just a soft glow from her phone screen. I slowed to a stop, and she looked up. Pale skin, black hoodie, no bags. Just nodded, climbed into the back seat, and said, "Thanks. Airport, please." No hello, no small talk, just cold. I started driving, entering the address she gave. 25 minutes, most of it highway. But something felt off almost immediately. The rearview mirror showed her looking out the window. No phone in hand, no movement, just staring. 10 minutes in, I tried to break the silence. "Late flight." She didn't answer, just kept staring out into the darkness. I glanced back. Her reflection caught the light for a second, eyes wide, almost unblinking. I felt a chill crawl down my arms. 15 minutes left. I cranked the heat, tried to shake it off. Then I heard it. Not words, just breathing, but not hers. It was coming from the seat beside her. I looked in the mirror again. Only one person in the back seat. But I could hear too. My hands tightened on the wheel. "You okay back there?" No response. I turned down the music completely. Now I could hear the breathing more clearly. Heavy, ragged, almost wet. We were close to the airport now. I just wanted to drop her off and leave. "Here's your stop," I said, trying to sound normal. She didn't move. "We're here," I repeated. Still nothing. I turned around. She was gone. The seatbelt was still buckled. Door never opened. But the back seat, empty. I sat frozen, engine idling, staring into the dark. And then I saw it. A handprint on the inside of the rear window, smudged, small, and slowly sliding down. I never took another ride that night or the next. But sometimes, when I drive that stretch of highway, I still hear breathing from the seat behind me, even when I'm alone. They follow. Story 20. The Woman in the Red Room. It started the first night I moved into the new apartment. Small place, quiet neighborhood, 3rd floor, corner unit. Nothing special. But from the moment I stepped inside, I knew something was off. The apartment had this strange layout. One extra room in the back, tiny, with red wallpaper that looked faded, like it had been there for decades. The landlord just called it the storage room, said to keep it closed. So I did. For a while, things were fine, but then I started hearing noises, always around 2 or 3 in the morning. A soft knock, sometimes just once, sometimes in pairs, not at the front door, at the red room. At first, I ignored it, thought it was plumbing or maybe my upstairs neighbor, but it kept happening. Same time, every night. One night, I cracked the door open, just a peek, nothing inside, no windows, just 4 red walls and an old mirror leaned against one corner. No sound, no movement. But when I closed the door, I swear, I heard breathing. The next day, I asked the landlord about it again. He brushed it off. "That room's been sealed for years," he said. "No one's used it." "But it's not sealed now," I said. "You gave me the key." He looked confused. "I didn't. It's supposed to be locked." "You sure it wasn't already open when you moved in?" I wasn't sure anymore. That night, the knocking got louder. Then, a whisper, right at the door. "I see you." I froze. Didn't move, didn't breathe, just stared at the handle, waiting for it to turn. It didn't. But in the morning, the door was open. Inside, the mirror had changed. It wasn't just reflecting the room anymore. It was showing something else. A hallway. Not mine. Older. Darker. And at the far end of it, a woman in red, standing perfectly still, facing the mirror. She didn't move. But I felt her watching me. I covered the mirror that night, pushed it face down into the corner. But the next morning, it was upright again. And the woman, closer. Every night after that, she moved, a few steps at a time, always toward the mirror, always toward me. I started sleeping on the couch, keeping the bedroom door shut. But somehow, every morning, that red room door would be open, the mirror untouched, the woman inches away now, just behind the glass. Then one morning, she was gone. Not in the mirror, not anywhere. I felt relief until I found the message scratched into the wall next to my bed. Now I see you. Story 21. The house at the edge of the woods. I found the house by accident. It wasn't on any map. There were no listings, no road signs, and no one in the nearby town seemed to know who lived there. But I saw it, just off a dirt trail I took on a whim, tucked behind a curtain of pine trees at the edge of the woods. It looked abandoned, but not ruined. The paint was faded, but the windows were intact. The porch sagged slightly, but the door was closed. Something about it felt still, too still, like the air around it had forgotten how to move. Curiosity got the better of me. I stepped onto the porch. The wood creaked under my weight, but the door opened easily when I turned the handle. Inside, the house was cold. Not the kind of cold you get from lack of heat. A deep, unsettling chill that wrapped around your bones. It was fully furnished. Furniture covered in white sheets, books on the shelves, plates in the cupboards. It was like the owners had stepped out for a moment and never returned. But the dust, there wasn't any. I don't know why I stayed. Maybe it was the silence. Maybe it was the way the house felt like it was waiting for someone. Or maybe it was because in some strange way, I felt like I'd been there before. The first night, I dreamed of the forest, of walking barefoot on pine needles, surrounded by whispers I couldn't quite make out. When I woke up, my feet were dirty. The second night, I heard music, faint, like an old record player, spinning somewhere upstairs. But when I checked, there was nothing. No sound system, no speakers, just an empty hallway lined with mirrors that hadn't been there the day before. I should have left, but the house felt alive, and it knew I was there. By the third night, I started finding things. A child's shoe by the front door, an old photograph of a woman in a blue dress, the same one I saw in the mirror behind me the night before, a journal with my name on the inside cover. It was written in my handwriting, but I didn't remember writing it. The entries talked about the house, about the forest, about voices in the walls and figures in the trees. The last page just said, "Don't stay past the 7th night." I stayed 6. On the 7th morning, I packed and left without looking back. The air outside felt different, lighter, like I'd been holding my breath for a week and could finally exhale. I tried to return a month later. The trail was gone. So was the house. Just trees and silence. But sometimes, I dream of the hallway again, and the woman in the mirror isn't smiling anymore. They follow. Story 22. The tunnel beneath the tracks. I used to take the same shortcut home every night. A small pedestrian tunnel ran beneath the train tracks, just wide enough for 2 people to pass, barely lit by flickering orange bulbs overhead. The walls were tagged with graffiti, the ground always damp. Most people avoided it. I didn't. It was faster, and I thought I was used to it. Until one night, I wasn't alone. It was around 11 p.m., raining hard. My coat was soaked, my shoes sloshed as I stepped into the tunnel. The lights buzzed faintly above me. At the halfway point, I noticed something strange. A puddle, rippling, but there was no wind. I stopped, listened. Nothing. Just the rain behind me and silence ahead. Then, a cough. I froze. It echoed. Low, wet, too close. I turned slowly. No one was there, but something had changed. The tunnel felt longer. The exit behind me looked farther than it should have been. I told myself I was tired, kept walking, but the tunnel didn't end. I walked for another full minute, then two, still inside. I turned around. Both ends were gone. Just that orange glow stretching on, forever. I started running. The air grew colder, the walls narrower. My footsteps echoed like I was underground now, deep underground. My breathing got sharp. I was panicking. I didn't care. I just ran. Then I saw someone standing ahead, just outside the light. I stopped. It was a man, I think, in a long coat, but his face, it wasn't right. It looked blurred, like something behind glass, shifting too quickly to focus. He didn't move, neither did I. And then he spoke, but not with words. It was like the sound came from everywhere, inside my head. "You've walked too far." I opened my mouth, but no sound came out. He tilted his head, then took a step forward. I turned and bolted the other way, screaming, heart pounding. I didn't care where I went. I just needed to run. I ran until my legs gave out, until I collapsed against the wall. Then I saw it, a door. Just a plain metal door set into the tunnel wall, like it had always been there. It was open, and there was light. I crawled through. When I came to, I was outside, lying on wet pavement behind a convenience store. The tunnel was gone. The tracks were there, but no entrance, no tunnel, just trees and fence. I didn't go back, but sometimes, when it rains, I dream of that tunnel, and I wake up, soaked, shoes muddy, pants wet, as if I'd been walking, again, too far, and I wonder if that door will still be open next time, or if he'll be waiting. They follow. Story 23. The voice behind the door. It started with a knock, just after midnight. Not loud, just polite. Like someone didn't want to wake the whole house. Only me. I live alone. At first, I thought I imagined it. But then it came again. 3 slow knocks. I sat up, heart already racing. My house is small. 1 hallway, 1 front door. I could see the door from my bedroom. There was no one there. But the peephole, something about it looked wrong. Like the light behind it was too dim. Like it had depth. Movement. Then came the voice. Software. Familiar. "Let me in." I froze. I knew that voice. It was my brother. But he's been dead for 7 years. I didn't move. Didn't breathe. My body wanted to run, but my legs wouldn't listen. The voice came again. "Come on, I'm cold." It was exactly his voice, down to the little scratch he always had when he got tired. I wanted to believe it was a dream. Then he said something he shouldn't have known. "Remember the creek behind Grandma's house? That's where we used to play. Where he broke his arm falling from the rope swing. We never told anyone." "Let me in." I grabbed my phone, dialed 911, but the call didn't go through. No signal. I don't live in the middle of nowhere. I have great reception. But in that moment, there was nothing. Just static. And the knocking. It kept coming every few minutes. Gentle. Patient. I covered my ears. Waited for dawn. When the sun came up, it stopped. I didn't sleep that day. I just sat in the living room, staring at the door, trying to rationalize what happened. Maybe it was a dream, a grief hallucination, something buried deep that came back up, until I found the note. It was slipped under the door. It said, "Why didn't you answer?" I moved out a week later. New place, new locks. I told myself it was over. That trauma can do strange things. But 3 nights ago, I woke up to knocking. Different door, same sound, same voice. "You moved. Why?" And then, last night, "You'll never be far enough." I'm not answering, but I don't think that matters anymore. Because tonight, The voice whispered through the vent in my bedroom. And it wasn't just my brother's voice anymore. There were others. And they know where I sleep. They follow. Story 24. The wrong address. It started with a knock on my door. Not a loud one. Just 3 soft, polite taps. I live alone in a small apartment on the 3rd floor of an old building. It was late, almost midnight, and I wasn't expecting anyone. I waited a few seconds. Maybe I imagined it. But then, 3 more knocks. Same rhythm, same gentle pressure. I walked to the door and looked through the peephole. No one, just the dim hallway, lit by a flickering overhead bulb. I opened the door cautiously and peeked out. Nothing. No footsteps. No sounds of retreat. I chalked it up to a prank or some neighbor's kid being dumb. The next night, it happened again. Same knock, same timing. But this time, when I opened the door, there was an envelope on the ground. It was unmarked. Inside, just a single sheet of paper with an address written on it. I didn't recognize the street. I live in a big city, and it wasn't unusual for people to misdeliver things. But this wasn't a package. It was intentional. That night, I dreamed about the address. I was walking through unfamiliar streets, turning corners that didn't exist, and stopping in front of a house with no windows, a black door, no number, and someone was watching from the inside. I woke up sweating. By morning, the envelope was gone. I didn't throw it out. I remember placing it on the kitchen counter, but it had vanished. That day at work, I couldn't concentrate. I typed the address into Google Maps. Nothing came up, not even a close match. Later that night, I told myself I was being ridiculous. It was probably just some weird joke. I turned on the TV, made tea, and tried to forget it. Then came the 3rd night. I heard the knock again. This time, when I opened the door, there was a man standing there. Thin, tall, dressed in black. His eyes were too wide. He said nothing, just handed me another envelope and turned to leave. I called out, "Hey, what is this?" But he was already down the stairs, faster than I thought possible. I followed. He was gone. Inside the new envelope was a photograph. It was of me, standing at my door. From the hallway, there were no security cameras in that part of the building. That's when I decided to leave town for a few days. I packed a bag and went to stay with a friend. I didn't tell them why, just said I needed a break. But every night while I was there, I still heard knocking, not at the front door, at the window, on the 2nd floor. I didn't look. I couldn't. When I returned home a week later, everything was quiet. No more envelopes, no more dreams. I started to relax again. Maybe it had all been a weird coincidence. Until last night, I got a letter in the mail. No return address. Inside, just 2 words, handwritten in black ink. Wrong address. And now I can't stop wondering, what if they meant mine? What if I wasn't the target, but the mistake? Because now, every night, at exactly midnight, I hear 3 knocks. And this time, they're getting louder. Story 25. The reflection. I was alone in the cabin that night. Just me, the fireplace, and the sound of wind screaming through the trees. The storm had knocked the power out an hour earlier, but I didn't mind. I liked the quiet. It felt safe, until it didn't. I noticed the mirror above the fireplace first. It was old, slightly cracked at the edges, and I'd barely paid attention to it before. But something felt wrong. I saw movement, just a flicker, in the glass. I turned quickly. Nothing there, just my own reflection. But when I looked again, it blinked, and I hadn't. My breath caught. I stared at the mirror. My reflection stared back. Then it smiled. I didn't. I lifted my hand. Slow, deliberate. The reflection stayed still. It didn't follow. I stepped back, heart racing. The reflection stepped forward, closer, too close. I grabbed the nearest thing, a blanket, and threw it over the mirror. The room felt colder instantly. The fireplace was still burning, but the chill was in my bones now. I tried to sleep, but the silence was loud. The kind that presses in around you. The kind that makes you feel like you're not really alone. In the middle of the night, I heard something fall, a soft thump. I crept back into the living room. The blanket was on the floor. The mirror was bare and empty. No reflection, not even mine. I left the next morning, drove straight home, didn't tell anyone. I didn't want to sound insane, but a week later, I got a text from an unknown number. It was a photo of me standing in front of that same mirror. Only I wasn't smiling, and I wasn't the one holding the camera. They follow. Story 26. The farmhouse. When my grandfather died, he left me his farmhouse. It was old, isolated, and surrounded by nothing but empty fields and rotting fences. No neighbors for miles. Just silence, wind, and the creaking of wood that hadn't been touched in decades. I didn't even know the place existed, but the deed was in my name. No explanations, no letter, just a single key in a yellowed envelope. I drove out there out of curiosity. Thought I'd spend a night or two, maybe fix it up, maybe sell it. I shouldn't have stayed. The first thing I noticed was the front door. It had scratch marks, deep ones at the bottom, like something had tried to claw its way in or out. Inside, the house smelled of dust and forgotten memories, furniture still in place, photos still on the walls, my grandfather's boots still by the door. But there were no mirrors, not a single one, anywhere. At first, I didn't care. I unpacked, lit a fire, and tried to relax. But that first night, I heard footsteps, not creaking floorboards, not animals outside. Footsteps, slow, deliberate, heavy. I checked every room. Nothing. I locked my bedroom door and tried to sleep. In the dark, I could hear breathing. The second day, I found something strange in the cellar, a journal. My grandfather's name was on the first page. The entries started normal, weather updates, crop yields, lonely musings. But the deeper I read, the more frantic the writing became. He talked about them, about things he saw in the fields at night, about voices whispering through the walls, about reflections that didn't match his movements. He said they were watching, that they could only get through when seen, that mirrors gave them power. That's why he removed them. The last entry was just 4 words, scrawled in shaking handwriting. Don't look behind you. That night I boarded up every window. I covered every shiny surface. But the feeling remained that I wasn't alone. On the third night, I saw them. Shapes in the cornfield, tall, still, facing the house. I closed all the curtains, but I could feel their eyes through the walls. I tried to leave the next morning. My car wouldn't start. The road was gone. Just endless field in every direction. That night, they knocked. Not on the door, on the windows, the attic walls, the floor beneath my bed. I screamed into the empty house, begged them to leave. But the silence that followed was worse than the noise. On the final night, I ran into the woods. Didn't take anything, just ran. I don't remember falling, but I woke up in my apartment. The farmhouse was gone. The deed had vanished. Everyone I asked said I never inherited anything. But sometimes, when I turn off the lights at night, I hear knocking, not at the door, from the mirror in the hallway. They follow.